Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, thank you for joining me this evening on Conservatives Cool Talk Radio. This is your host, Wayne Bradley. I want to thank everybody that's listening in this evening. We're going to talk about a few issues that are going on in the weekly news. I also have a special guest this evening. Hope Marc Lamont Hill will be joining us shortly. So I look forward to having him on the show this evening. And we're going to get to talking about some of the issues that's going on in the national news right now. The call-in number for tonight is 347-996-3175. I'm going to be reaching out to Mark real soon, hoping to get him on the air here. The talking points of tonight's show are going to be the disrespect of conservative women, including Arlen Specter and the way he talked about Michelle Bachmann. We're going to talk about also, did Brown's message finally send a message to Democrats in the Massachusetts race? And I want to know exactly how everyone feels about now where the healthcare debate is at. How do you feel about it now? Do you support it after everything you've heard? All the special interest groups that have reached out and made differences in this bill, and it's all been worked behind closed doors. I want to hear from you this evening, 347-996-3175. All right. Hey, Mark, this is Wayne. How you doing? Hey, you want to give me a call in on the call-in line? Okay, 347-996-3175. All right, thanks, bro. That was Mark right there. I just talked to him. He's going to be giving me a call right now. So, everybody, I hope you're listening in. This is going to be my first guest on the show on Conservatives Cool Talk Radio. So, I really appreciate Mark giving us a call and checking in on the show this evening. So, hopefully he's calling in soon. And I'm going to be waiting for his call here. The first issue I guess I really wanted to talk about was the whole idea that the way Arlen Specter spoke to Michelle Bachmann, telling her to act like a lady, and it actually took him a few days to actually even apologize for the statement. So, and it seems like all the women's groups, they're never there for any of the conservative women when people are actually being disrespected. And I think it's almost disgusting. I can name at least 5 to 6 different conservative women that we hear about on a regular basis that are talked about in a way that is disrespectful and shameful, but yet you don't hear from any of these women activist groups speaking out on their behalf. So I think that's something we need to talk about this evening, and I think we're going to cover those issues and a few other issues. Again, we're talking about Sarah Palin, Michelle Bachmann, Condoleezza Rice, Michelle Malkin. There's just a lot of people that they're thrown under the rug just for their opinions, and I think it's something that needs to change. Waiting for Mark to give me a call here. If people are listening in, the call-in number tonight is 347-996-3175. Again, that number is 347-996-3175. Anybody was watching tonight, I want to say congratulations to my Michigan State Spartans for pulling off the victory at U of M. I told you that my Spartans were going to win tonight. It looked like a good game. Spartans all the way. We're going to the Final Four again. We're going to win that national championship this year. So I'm feeling real good. It's been a good night. I'm looking forward to Mark giving me a call here. So hope to hear from you soon. 347-996-3175. And I guess the question I would have for anybody out there that's listening right now is that why is it acceptable for people to degrade and talk about conservative women, but yet I just can't imagine if someone did that to Nancy Pelosi or someone like that. Hold on, let me get this call here.
Hello?
You're on the air.
This is Marc Lamont Hill.
Mark, how you doing, brother?
Good, brother. Good to hear your voice, man.
Good to hear you too. Good to finally talk to you, man. We go back and forth on Twitter. This is everybody if you're listening. This is Marc Lamont Hill. He's on I'm sure if you watch Fox, you know he's everyone's favorite favorite liberal on the show, and I'm glad I'm welcome on the show this evening. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule.
It's my pleasure,
and,
man.
Like I said, I've already had a lot of people Facebooking me. You have a lot of people to love you out here, man.
Yeah, well, as long as it's close to the number of people that hate me, I'm feeling good.
Yeah, you're doing good out there, man. You're doing real good. The first issue that I was talking about this evening, and I guess we could talk about it for a moment, is that the disrespect of the first talking point was the disrespect of conservative women. How did you feel about the way Arlen Specter spoke with Michelle Bachmann?
I think that it's disappointing. Whenever you have women of any political persuasion, of any class status, of any elected office, being sort of demeaned or diminished, or otherwise marginalized, it's a disappointment, and it's a testimony to just how far we have not come as a society. And another thing I would say, and I'm sure my Republican brethren would agree, is that we're quick to talk about issues of marginalization and inequality when from the Democratic side of the aisle, but we often lose sight of the fact that liberals, and at least in my experience, have often been some of the most condescending, patronizing, racist, sexist people I've ever encountered.
Would you? I was watching the show. Did you have a problem with what Harry Reid said about President Obama?
That was a little trickier for me, man. I tell you, I didn't think that it was. I thought the use of Negro dialect was bizarre, right? The use of Negro, to me, I thought Negro went out with jive turkey. You know what I mean? Just as a term, I didn't think that it was something that people got down with. And so, whenever white Americans have a sense of bewilderment or surprise when black people speak standard English, I always find that curious, right? Why are you surprised that somebody who's president, or at the time a senator, someone who went to Columbia and Harvard, has the capacity to speak in non-Negro dialect, as you put it? I found to be troublesome. It's almost as if he made the Negro dialect of black English sound like it was some kind of jungle language. You know what I mean? That Barack Obama somehow escaped from.
I mean, his own vice president was amazed. He said he was clean.
Right.
He said he was clean and well spoken, and this is the guy he chose to be his
right.
VP.
Clean, articulate. I think Barack chose Joe Biden partly because of that comment, to be quite honest. Because I think that comment put black people on the offensive and put white people on the defensive. And by choosing Joe Biden, Barack Obama is able to show America that he's above the racial fray, that he doesn't get bogged down in the kind of petty, racial politics that some of us are. And so by doing that, he said, I'm bigger than all of that. It's a really interesting way that he constantly plays the racial game in his own way.
Okay, that's very true. As far as I guess that's the one thing I was talking about. Why is there a pass? Does it seem like it's a pass for liberals to slander women? I guess minorities in general. Why isn't the media hounding him to say if I don't know, if like with Trent Lott, he had to resign. Say if any conservative was to say that about Pelosi, and it would be a slightly different story, don't you think?
Well, I think there's an apples and oranges issue, and also I think it's just unfair. I mean, on the one hand, Republicans say, when Trent Lott had to resign, whereas Harry Reid didn't. But the point is, Republicans didn't want Trent Lott to resign. So to me, to call for Harry Reid's resignation to me is hypocritical, right? You thought he shouldn't have resigned, so you should just stand up for Harry Reid and say that a mistake was made in the past. So it almost becomes this political game where you say, aha, you said this here, and aha, we're going to get you there. To me, the difference between, say, Harry Reid and Trent Lott was huge. I don't think they were in the same class. Saying that America would have been better had we supported a segregationist for president, to me, is different than pointing out that Barack Obama partly won an election because he's light-skinned, or could win an election because he's light-skinned. Because the reality is, light-skinned brothers do have a better chance of winning elections than dark-skinned brothers. That's just the reality of America. I'm not saying it's right, and he's not saying that it's fair. He was saying that that's the reality, and I think that type of political pragmatism shouldn't be dismissed as racist per se.
Okay. So the criticism, like let's say with Sarah Palin, like I said, we'll get off this in a minute. Sarah Palin, Michelle Bachmann, Condoleezza Rice. I mean, we can take it back to her when she was working under Bush. It was always, terrible comics drawn about her, and it's just how come none of the women rights groups stick up for any of these women?
Well, I think they don't in general stick up for those people. I think that that's part of the problem, right? Is that we only choose to defend people who have our political ideology sometimes. I mean, I think if someone attacks Condoleezza Rice or Hillary Clinton or Sarah Palin, they should be challenged for it, and they should be criticized for it if it's done in a way that's sexist or misogynist and so forth. The problem is sometimes the critiques we had of Sarah Palin weren't sexist all the time. I think that it's a fair question to challenge her intelligence. I think it's a fair question to challenge her knowledge of foreign policy. And many people said, well, you're only doing that because she's a woman. I think that's unfair. I think there were legitimate reasons to challenge Sarah Palin's capacity to be vice president of the United States of America. They have nothing to do with her being a woman.
Okay. All right. On to the next one. Did you think that Brown's message sent a message to the Democrats and to just to Obama that the way things are going so far is not the way that America wants to go, or does that just circulated just for the Massachusetts area? I mean, that's one of the most liberal states out there, and for them to vote in a Republican ought to really send off some shockwaves to those guys.
Sometimes I worry that the Democratic Party is tone deaf. This should have sent a message. I think that we can overstate, the impact or the significance or the substance of the message such that we start saying, oh, my God, this was a referendum on Obama's presidency. Well, maybe not. I don't think it's that simple. I think we're in a moment where people are anti-incumbent. And when you look throughout history, you see people are anti-incumbent when you have a Democratic president, you have a Democratic-controlled House, a Democratic-controlled Senate. It makes sense that people have some reluctance or resistance to having, a 60-person supermajority. So I think that's one issue, just a general reluctance to have too much power situated in one place. I think that's one issue. Another issue is this was less a referendum on Obama per se and more a referendum on jobs. People don't have jobs. I wouldn't care if George Bush were in office right now. I wouldn't care if Ronald Reagan were in office right now. I wouldn't care if FDR were in office right now. When people don't have jobs, they're not happy with Washington. And I think that this was saying that, look, we're not happy with the status quo. We want change. People elected Obama on the notion of change, and I think people were frustrated with the fact that they don't have jobs. And I think people were frustrated with the health care legislation. Do I agree with universal health care? Yes. Is a large chunk of America disappointed with the current bill as it is? Absolutely. And I think part of what you saw was a referendum on that. People knew that if they elected Coakley, that they were going to have a different kind of health care bill than if they didn't. It was that simple. It came down to the last vote. And that's what happens. And it's not her fault. It's not, it's not Massachusetts' responsibility anymore. A foul shot that you miss in the first quarter is worth just as much as a foul shot you miss at the end of the game. But if the score is tied, there's no time left on the clock. That last one seems a whole lot more important.
Everyone remembers that.
Everyone remembers that one, and this is the one that people remember. But I think this is a nationwide issue. I don't think that this is a death knell of Obama's presidency. I don't think that Obama is a guaranteed one-term president. In fact, I think it's much more likely that he is a two-term president than a one-term president. But I think Democrats have to listen. They have to realize that if John F. Kennedy, Ted Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, if that seat, that from that deep legacy of Democratic control is that vulnerable, just less than 6 months after Teddy Kennedy dies, if the seat is that vulnerable, then that means that they have some serious work to do in before November.
I would agree. Now, that's the one thing that me and you probably are going to disagree a little bit about is this health care debate. I've heard you say before that you're for the public option. And I guess the thing I would ask, what would you do right now? Obama has not done what he was promised, which was actually put the whole negotiations on C-SPAN. Let us hear everything that's going on. In your world, what would be the perfect health care bill? How would it be?
Oh, you don't want to see my perfect health care bill, bro.
I'm scared of it. I know I'm scared of it.
If you're conservative, quite frankly, I think we should have a universal single-payer system. I don't think that health care should be a business. I just don't believe that we should be in the business of health care. But what I want is so far outside the boundaries of what is possible that I'm not even going to sort of focus on what my ideal bill would be. Right? I don't believe that these private corporations do anything but create damage and exploit poor people. But within the context of a system where we do have health care, and when we have health care providers, and when we have where we have insurers, we have to have a different kind of conversation. You know, all throughout the Democratic primary, people kept talking about universal health care. What they really meant was universal health insurance. They weren't talking about universal health care, they were talking about universal health insurance. And so in the context of universal health insurance, I think I need a public option. I need something to keep corporations in check. I mean, I like the idea of co-ops, but there's a lot of unanswered questions about co-ops in terms of how many people, how many members we need in order for it to be financially viable. I mean, there's a range of questions that have never been answered about co-ops because we never had any details. Right. But so for me right now, the public option remains the ideal mechanism. I could even live with a public option with a trigger if I thought that the penalties were sufficiently quick and sufficiently heavy.
But they make the trigger so easily attainable, we might as well just cut the trigger out and call it a public option. That was the idea in the first place, right? I mean,
right. I mean, that's exactly what that's exactly right. But Republicans, remember when there was initial resistance to the public option, people said, well, give corporations a chance. Corporations can become competitive, or rather, they can bring costs down. They're the most efficient mechanism. They can do it. And so President Obama said, well, if you all are as efficient as possible, and you all are as cost-saving as necessary, then you have nothing to worry about with a government alternative, right? And Republicans, of course, say, well, yeah, the government can throw a bottomless pit of money at an issue.
No one can compete with the government. Who can compete with the government?
But Obama's response, and I think it was an astute one, was, well, look, we're not going to have a bottomless pit of money. We're not going to treat this like a government pet project that we continue to throw money at in order to push private business out. This is not going to operate off of taxpayer dollars. That's what he said at the healthcare presser back in late August, early September. So if what he said is true, and I mean that's fair enough, that's a big if. But if what he said is true, if the Democrats in Congress have offered, not just with Obama, with any politician, right? But right. If it's true, if everything they've said is true, then there's nothing to fear from a public option to me, or from government competition at all. And so I have no problem with the public option. But the idea with the trigger is, again, if corporations can come in line, if they can be as efficient and as fair and as humane as possible, then y'all ain't got nothing to worry about with a public option. It'll never kick in. But if there's a moment where you all fail to meet a reasonable standard, then there's going to be an issue here. And I think a 3-year or 5-year window is more than enough time to make that happen. We're talking about 3 to 5 years after sweeping healthcare legislation were to kick in. So we're really talking about 2018 probably before a public option trigger would kick in.
That's the other thing I would ask you. I watched one of the interviews before. You thought maybe illegals should be included in the healthcare debate. Do you think we should cover illegals in this universal healthcare policy too?
I think we should cover undocumented workers for several reasons. One is that undocumented workers, undocumented citizens still go to emergency rooms. We are paying for them whether they're covered or not. And instead of offering them preventive care, instead of offering them early health care, preventive medicine, and so forth, we're waiting for them to either go into an emergency room, which is uncontrollable if they get hit by a bus, for example, but also going in there when they have the flu, or going in there when they have diabetes, and they have an emergency that's linked to the diabetic condition. There's also the epidemiological issue, right, which is that if you live in a neighborhood with 10 people and 3 of them are undocumented, you can get the flu from undocumented people just like you can from documented people. So if they don't have access to, if they're falling into illnesses and they're dying from preventable diseases that are contagious in particular, then they're affecting the entire citizenry, not just other undocumented people. It's not like you hop over the border, you can only infect other Mexicans. So I want people to be treated and taken care of so that the entire citizenry is healthier. That for me is the key issue around healthcare. And you know what? It's the humane thing to do.
I agree. It's the humane. How do we pay for it? How do we? I mean, we're already underwater as far as our spending, and every other government program that's been created, Social Security, Section 8, all these different programs have been created. All of them are over budget at this point. Me and you will not have Social Security.
Right. Well, you're rich, so you'll be okay. You got plenty of money, so you'll be all right.
Social insecurity, that's what I call it. It won't be there for us if our parents spend the money and they're living to 90 and all this stuff because all the preventative medicine we're providing and everything else. the money legitimately cannot be there. So if they're telling us right now, let's say $1 trillion for this health care bill, then is it realistic to assume that it could be $2 trillion, and that this is one of these kind of programs where we could just be throwing money away forever, and once we're into it, we're in. We're not going to stop once we start doing it. So I mean, what do you think that we could do to maybe create another revenue stream to support that, or do you just say, hey, you're willing to pay the tax just like every, Cadillac plan, but as long as you're not a UAW worker. If you're a UAW worker, you're cool. But if you're not a UAW worker and you have a good job with health care benefits, you're paying for that program.
Well, here's the thing. I don't consider providing health coverage for all Americans to be throwing money away, right? Right now we have, whether you think the number is 10 million or 40 million or 8 million, whatever the number is, right? I would submit somewhere in the 20s. But whatever the number is, we have tens of millions of Americans who simply don't have access to health care. We live in a country where people still die of preventable diseases. We live in a nation where people go to the dentist, where children can't go to the dentist's office. I mean, you read books like Jonathan Cole's Savage Inequalities, and you think about kids in East St. Louis that literally go to school with toothaches. And you've had a toothache before, and you know how painful that is. Imagine going to school for a whole year with a toothache,
right,
because you don't have access to dental care. I mean, that to me, that's not throwing money away. That's not an excuse to be inefficient. That's not an excuse to be irresponsible, but it does suggest that there's a pressing moral issue that's in front of us. No one would ever say that we have a national security issue, but we don't have the money for it. We have to figure out a way to solve it. That's what people say. We have to figure out a way to solve the fact that our domestic borders are in peril. That's what people will be interested in. They don't care about how we do it. They want it done. Well, to me, tens of millions of people going to bed hungry, tens of millions of people not having adequate health coverage, tens of millions of people having low-quality schools, these are issues that are of equal moral exigence. And so for me, that's where our attention has to lay. Now, back to to answer your question more directly, I don't believe that we have to choose between treating people humanely and operating efficiently. One of the things that Barack Obama talked about, and I think he's right, even though, in all frankness, I haven't seen a clear action plan for it, but he's right about is that there's considerable waste in government. There's considerable waste in Medicare. There's considerable fraud in Medicare. Big business, private business, multinational corporations, they got a whole lot of fraud too. So let's not act like that's a uniquely governmental thing. However, right, we have some serious issues that we need to unpack and resolve when it comes to waste and fraud, and we could save tens of millions of dollars, billions of dollars, tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars, through cleaning up waste and fraud. That was Obama's point when he said, we can account for a large chunk of healthcare reform by raising taxes on the wealthiest Americans, which I support. But we also can raise.
Mark, you're killing me.
Well, I'm killing me too. That's the irony, right? I always laugh at this.
You're signing on for it. That's all you right there. I understand that. Go ahead.
But that's the irony, right? Because it's always a poor white mechanic that gets mad at me for taking his tax money when I support tax hikes. I'm like, dude, it's my money, not yours. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
But I happen to support it because I think it's the right thing to do. I would give 40%. I would give 45% in taxes, quite frankly. I know some people wouldn't. I know some people think that's exorbitant, and maybe it is. I don't know. But I'm telling you that I would pay a lot more in taxes than I'm forced to pay right now under Obama and under Bush, even under Reagan, and Clinton. So that's my stance. But we can supplement health care by raising taxes on the wealthiest Americans. I'm talking about the wealthiest 5%. I mean, Obama might even say the wealthiest 2%. I say the wealthiest 5%, right? Mm-hmm. And by cleaning out waste and fraud in these systems, if we do both of those, I think that we would have a much more efficient system. And the other thing we have to do real quick is we have to stop thinking that it's a competing agenda between fixing the economy and fixing healthcare. There's no way to fix the economy without fixing healthcare. It's just impossible.
Do you think that the president made a mistake in not focusing on jobs first and maybe moving to healthcare after we got the economy rolling again, or was that just because he had so much political capital in the beginning he had to strike while the iron was hot?
I don't think that there was any other moment where he could have gotten healthcare legislation through than this one.
And he's still probably not going to get it through at this point.
Something will get through. I guarantee you. Mark my words, something's going to go through because there's no way that the Obama administration would spend the last year and a half fighting a battle and then having such a public defeat. They would rather have a health care bill that is completely toothless than to have nothing because they cannot have such a major political defeat. The other thing is, let's not forget, a year ago, the idea of universal health care was still a pipe dream to people. And now the idea that 12 months later we have a major reform that where tens of millions of people will have access to health care who didn't before, that's nothing short of stunning. I don't like the bill. I think we could have done so much more. I think he mishandled this project from the beginning.
It's not left enough. I know.
Yeah.
I've heard Pelosi and them complain about it. It doesn't have the public option, and that's the thing that Dean, everybody say if you're gonna throw this out here, give it the public option, because without that, it still leaves a lot of people without health care.
That's exactly right. But the other issue here is Obama never really told us what he wanted. And I think this is an Obama problem from the beginning, is that I don't have a clear sense of what his agenda is and exactly what his politics are. And so,
well, he did that on purpose.
Oh, no doubt.
On purpose. He didn't want anybody to know everything that he was feeling, because some people might have been scared and not have voted for that. I mean, he still does that. He keeps everything to the chest, and even with this health care bill, I think he kind of just put it in the hands of the Senate and let everybody else deal with it, and kind of like how he did in Illinois, just voting present. That's kind of like how I would compare it to.
Well, I mean, I think the right seems to think that he has a hidden left-wing socialist agenda that he's smuggled in under the guise of centrism. I don't think that's the case. I think he just doesn't know exactly. I think he knows exactly what he believes, but I think his politics are a little skittish. I mean, I think there are things that he's very conservative on. I think there are things that he's very much a centrist on. I think there are things that he's very much a leftist on.
So what would you at this point so far? What would you give him as a grade?
C+, B-.
Okay, we're not too far off. I'm right there at D-, D+.
Oh man, bro, damn. That means you don't like anything but like the White House dog and maybe the inauguration ball.
His dog is soft too. Nothing's tough about him. Even the dog is soft.
You want like the White House Rottweiler, a Doberman or something.
There you go. I got me an English bulldog named Cheney.
Oh man,
that's how you're supposed to do it.
Right. Oh man, you talk about stereotypes. Can you imagine the next time you walk around the White House with a tank top on? You know what I mean, with the Rottweiler outside.
A little barbecue on the
barbecue, right? So you can't do that. I mean, I think Obama's done a decent job on some issues, though, man. I think that he has set a very ambitious agenda. I think that he hit a lot of areas that needed to be hit. I think that he's helped begin to restore United States' image around, particularly with multilateral conversations. But then there are other moments where he's following the Bush blueprint. There are other moments where he's far too hawkish for me. There are other moments where I think he's given into politics rather than feeling. I think he's given into political interest rather than political feeling, and I think that
there was a change. This is where all the change was supposed to be at. That wasn't supposed to happen this time around.
Well, you didn't hear that from me. I mean, I certainly voted for Obama, but I also supported Kucinich in the primary and wrote a string of pieces. Probably the biggest one was called "Not My Brand of Hope," where I critiqued Obama's political centrism, and I critiqued him and said that he had a particular sort of politics that I found troublesome.
Do you find it a little troublesome that most of his critiques end up on the back page, and that like someone like yourself, who a lot of people might not even have known that you wrote an article like that, because of the fact that they've done a good job of any real criticism of Obama does not, except obviously with Fox News, is not a real large amount of the press that's willing to even challenge him on a lot of issues. Does it seem like he gets a pass to you?
I don't think Obama gets a pass, and I do think that other networks are beginning to challenge him more and more.
Well, that's because now they're not getting the access they want. They some of the things they wanted to do, maybe they're not getting that. But up until this point, I mean, even with this whole health care bill, they have not questioned. I don't think they've challenged him enough on all the intricacies of what's going on as far as the bill. And then, sure enough, we get surprises, like with the whole unions and the way the union boss came up there and got an exception for them, but nobody else. I mean, I don't think that's fair, and I think that they're kind of giving him a pass on that.
I think you raised a couple of issues. One, I think the White House press corps has been soft on him. I do, and I can tell you that from someone who operates in media as well as in the classroom. And there was one moment where Helen Thomas got a little hot under the collar with him, but in general, I think the White House press corps has been pretty soft on him. I think that there's been a challenge of him in a range of areas. I mean, people say he got a pass in the primary. People say he got a pass in the general election. I don't understand. After Jeremiah Wright, Bill Ayers, after all these scandals, the man had his back against the wall when he gave that race speech. I can't imagine anyone saying that he got a free pass.
Jeremiah Wright barely made any of the other media sources except for Fox, maybe for a day or two. I mean, that was barely in the media cycle for. I mean, I live in Detroit, and I can tell you on a lot of the local stuff and Jeremiah Wright was not an issue. In fact, Jeremiah Wright can come to Detroit right now and get a packed house.
Of course he could.
I don't know if the media really challenged him on that, except again for maybe Fox News.
But I would argue that Fox was excessive. I mean, the Lakers were winning the damn NBA championship, and they had Jeremiah Wright, scrolling underneath. You know what I mean? I think you can go one extreme to the other. I mean, I think Jeremiah Wright should have been a 1-week news cycle. I think that Van Jones should have been a 1 or 2 day news cycle. And the fact that Fox has made a commitment to particularly people like Sean Hannity and Glenn Beck have made a commitment to stretching this out. That's their choice. I mean, I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying that I don't think that they're representing.
Do you think Van Jones should have been in the position he was in, considering some of the things he said in the past about being like a communist? And I mean, he could take it out of context and use it, but he's actually said these things.
Well, let me ask you a question. Why shouldn't someone who believes what he believed be in office? Tell me why he shouldn't be in the position he was in.
I mean, I guess from the standpoint of he's had a lot of negative, the way he feels about America in general, I would be uncomfortable with someone in a leadership position that feels that way. I mean, that's like hiring a coach or someone that feels bad about the team. Would you hire someone who doesn't like your team, who doesn't like your players?
Well, I would say a couple of things in response to that. One, he was hired to be a green job czar. He's an expert in that, and I think that's all we need him for. Second, I would say I don't think that he hates America. I think that in the tradition of great thinkers, James Baldwin, perhaps the greatest thinker of the black, and one of the great black writers of the second half of the 20th century, talks about, a love for this country that's so deep and so profound that he reserves the right to criticize it, incessantly. I think that some of us love America so much. I love America, but I love it enough to critique it. I love it enough to tear it apart. You know what I mean? I think that we need people with a diversity of opinion. It's almost as if people were saying nobody who believes like he believes should have a job in government. And the third thing I would say is this is an argument we only offer to the left. Republicans say I can't tell you how many conservatives say America's going to hell. How many times have people like Jerry Falwell before he passed, Pat Robertson says after 9/11 that the 9/11 happened because of America's policies. Alan Keyes, a prominent black Republican, said that America happened because of our stance on abortion. So we have Republicans all the time. E.D. Hirsch, Alan Bloom, Harold Bloom, Dinesh D'Souza, Bill Bennett, Reagan's Secretary of Education.
Would you agree that a lot of the media kind of treats those guys as like wackos and crazy and doesn't give them much time to, like Alan Keyes, for example. When's the last time he's made a headline?
Alan Keyes first of all, Alan Keyes did make a headline for that, but Alan Keyes is irrelevant.
The point being, a lot of those guys you just named are irrelevant, and they weren't working under, like, for example, George Bush, and they didn't have jobs as green jars, which, we're going to say that for another night, talking about these green jobs and the whole green thing. I got a big thing about that the other day about that with somebody, but if you're working for me, if I hired you as my general manager, I wouldn't want you to not like my group or my organization. And
what if I hired you? What if you hired me to be the general manager of your basketball team, and I was on record saying, basketball really isn't as good as it used to be. Players don't pass enough, they don't set picks enough. All they do is want to dribble and dunk all the time. Would you not hire me?
That's an honest observation of the game. But if I hired you to,
and that's my point.
I hired you to coach the Pistons, and you came and said to me, you know what, I hate everybody on this team, and this is not. I'd rather just blow it up. I would think, you know what, maybe I need to find someone that can work within the guidelines.
I agree with you.
You know what I mean? I understand what you're saying, but
see what you're doing right now. But brother, what you're doing right now, you're not just offering a hypothetical. You're offering a counterfactual, right? Van Jones never said that he hated America, and he never said that he hated people in Washington. All he ever did was, in a long tradition of people, was offer his critique of what was wrong with America. And it seems to me that anyone willing to roll up their sleeves and work in a government that they're critical of, to me, deserves at least some attention, at least some respect. Now, we may not agree with his politics, and don't pick him. But I don't think the fact that he.
I mean, that's the whole point.
No, but that's different. But that's different than saying that somebody that he doesn't, that it's wrong for him to have that position because he has critiques of the government. Because what I'm saying is that if you go to any Republican right now, if you were to talk to Sarah Palin right now, she would say this nation is losing its values. We're losing our moral center. We're not holding on to abstinence. We're choosing safe sex over abstinence. We need to get back to middle America. I mean, her whole campaign as vice president was about getting back to middle American values. Conservative politics in general is about conserving something that they think is leaving, right? We're moving this way, and we need to conserve what we have. America's going in the wrong direction.
We don't like the direction of the
right.
country. But we won't per se come out and say we don't like America. We don't like.
But neither do liberals. Neither do progressives. No one, Van Jones and these other people said we don't like America. They're saying we don't like the direction America's going in.
Obama's called the country arrogant. He's saying we're not a Christian country. I mean, he's changed. And that's the kind of, when they say direction of the direction of the country, I think those are the things that scare people in particular, like at tea parties and Sarah Palin when she's speaking those kind of events.
That's cool.
I mean, they see it that way, and that's and it can be an accurate portrayal when you listen to someone talking bad about the country, saying that we were arrogant, apologizing for everything we've ever done as a country. I mean, some people could take that the wrong way and look at that as we're going in the wrong direction. Would you not agree? I mean, if you're looking at
but here's the thing. I'm not challenging the legitimacy of the critique. I'm simply saying that people on both sides of the aisle talk about America moving in the wrong direction. During the Bush, people on the left
talk about taking out America. We don't talk about the whole let's blow it up.
But neither did Van Jones.
He wants to fundamentally change America. That scares a lot of people. I mean, this whole healthcare debate, it started off with the Tea Parties and stuff was constitutional rights, people bringing guns and stuff. It was just the whole idea that he's trying to change everything.
Let me ask you a question. Would you say that after 9/11, America was fundamentally changed?
Yes.
Okay, so Bush instituted a set of policies that fundamentally changed America. And he
did not change America, though. Those terrorists decided to do that, and he did his job to protect us. We never had another attack on American soil since then.
Here's
a few attacks.
No. What I'm saying is that the Patriot Act changed the way people operated. The change in TSA changed the way people navigated airports. The National Security, the NSA changed the way people changed certain issues around private. What constitutes.
They wouldn't have had to do that though if it wasn't for somebody that hates America so bad. Want our destruction. I mean, their whole idea is that they can just to cause us that kind of terror and destruction. They've won.
I'm not arguing. I'm not at the moment even disputing whether or not Bush's policies are right or wrong. What I'm saying is that most public policy is designed to change fundamentally how America operates. Welfare reform was changing fundamentally how America operated. Prayer in school fundamentally changes how America operates. But those are right-wing concerns, and so nobody sees them as somehow anti-American to institute. But if somebody says that I want to impose more state welfare, if somebody says I want to extend unemployment benefits, if somebody says I want to add universal health care, it's somehow seen as anti-American. I'm saying that whether you're a conservative or a liberal, we're both trying to change something in America, and yet when someone on the left does it, we say, oh, my God, they shouldn't have a job because they don't love America. They hate America. They want to destroy everything American. No, they don't. Van Jones don't want to change everything American. Barack Obama don't want to change everything that's American. But there are certain aspects of America that they have critiques of, just like people on the right. I happen to disagree with the brothers on the right, but I would never say that Bill Bennett should not have been Secretary of Education under Ronald Reagan because he hated America. Even though everything he said about America was America's going in the wrong direction. America's going to hell. America's doing the wrong things. Our kids don't love the country anymore. We're not patriotic. We're losing our collective culture. I mean, you could make a list of things that conservatives like Bill Bennett and E.D. Hirsch said about the nation, but I would never say that they hate America. I would just say I don't like their politics, so I won't vote for them. That's what we should do at Van Jones. But when it comes to people on the left, we smear them and make it seem as if everybody's this fascist, evil, anti-democratic, anti-American zealot. And I think that's very dangerous politics.
All right. I'm gonna get the last couple questions here. How do you feel about the KSM trial in New York? Do you think that he should be in a civilian trial or a military trial?
We might agree more on this than you think. Let me say this. I don't see anything wrong with a civilian trial. Mm-hmm. I don't think that it presents a national security threat because I believe that we have people on the ground from the NYPD to the FBI to the CIA to the military. I believe we can protect the nation. I don't believe that there's a chance of getting a not guilty verdict But even if there were, they would still be seen as enemy combatants. They would still be seen as national security threats, and as such, they still wouldn't be set free. So there's no chance that we're going to send, killers and bombardiers out across, back across the country, back across the other side of the globe. That's another issue. I don't believe that that we're giving these people a microphone and a platform that they otherwise would not have. I think that in the age of global media, we've seen. Bin Laden still be making.
Think that when they start bringing, they might try to call up, the CIA interrogators. I mean, it could go as far up the ladder, where they want to go for with Cheney and Bush.
Yeah.
You don't think that they're going to try to, because they know they're going to go to jail. They're not going to get out, like you said. They're not going to try to just publicize this and politicize this as much as possible. And you don't think that Obama and Holder and those guys don't, know that, and they might not have an issue with that at all?
Well, let's look at the past. Under Republican administrations, has that happened? The Bush administration, the shoe bomber was tried under Bush. That didn't happen. We could think about people from Ikhwani Muslim, the Muslim Brotherhood, Omar El Rahman. That didn't happen. We've seen civilian trials under Republican regimes, and that has not happened. But even if they had happened that way, which they didn't, we could still make the case that if a trial is managed properly with the proper judge and the proper prosecutor, that it won't become a circus. Now that said, because this is where we might agree, I'm not against military trials. I think what Obama's doing is more for show, than anything else.
That's exactly the point. He's not doing this to convict this guy. He's not, like you said, he's not getting out. Do you? Yeah, I guess that's the biggest issue with that. Is like if we did in a military trial, again, none of the secrets of all our interrogation tactics. And are you against waterboarding? I guess that's another question.
Before you skip that point though, so much of that stuff is classified, and Holder's made that clear. These trials are not going to produce information about American state secrets. There are state secret clauses that prevent that from happening. So you ain't got to worry about that. As far as waterboarding, I'll tell you, morally, I'm a little torn on waterboarding. I honestly have not. I'm not in the left wing fold on this. I'm not against waterboarding in general.
Really?
I don't think that it's a. I haven't seen a compelling moral argument against it so far. No, all people keep saying is we're a nation of laws. My only concern is the contradiction between America and what America does and what America says. If you go to Israel, you see waterboarding. If you go to China, you see waterboarding. You can go around a nation. Most nations do waterboarding. Here's my concern: we are part of the Geneva Convention, or rather, we comply with the Geneva Convention. We also comply with the Convention Against Torture. So we've made international agreements and treaties, which, according to the Constitution, we're bound to honor, that we don't honor by engaging in waterboarding. Now, unless you're making the case that waterboarding doesn't constitute torture, that I don't believe. I think waterboarding is torture. So the question is, do we believe in torture or not? Again, I'm not really against torture, and again, I'm open to be changed on that. I'm not steadfast in that position, but I don't see a problem with torture. What I see a problem with is us violating conventions. Let's change the international conversation. Let's talk to our partners.
Waterboarding maybe be legal then.
Yeah, or say we don't subscribe to the Geneva Convention. So, yeah, or the conventional. But do something. But we can't have these gaping holes and gaps between what we say and between what we do.
Do you think they should investigate the CIA or press charges on any of it if they did find wrongdoing? Which, again, if we're using the Geneva Conventions and if we decided the waterboarding is wrong, do you think those men or their superiors should be charged with anything?
Again, I struggle with it, man. There's a chain of command in military. First of all, there was talk that even the attorneys would be,
that's bad if the attorneys can get in any kind of trouble.
Yeah, there's that issue, right? But there's also the moral hazard concern, which is that if we don't prosecute anybody, then we can always use the shroud of state secrets, the shroud of chains of command and loyalty to avoid doing what's right. Because people will always say, well, look, in the past they got away, they did it, it was illegal, they got away with it, they were cool, I'm gonna do it again. I think that we have to be I think we have to exhaust all other resources before we engage in torture. Any kind of violence or war in particular, but any kind of violence, any kind of act of war, any kind of gesture of physicality, I think needs to be a last resort. If for some reason people have resorted to that but not followed all the steps, or if people have violated laws and conventions and other things, then I think what we need to do and see where this starts. If it starts with Dick Cheney, then maybe Cheney should be charged with war crimes. I don't know. I don't know enough. I don't have enough security information to say. But based on what we know, if Cheney has violated rules, he needs to be found guilty. Perhaps President Bush needs to be found guilty. But I'm not committed to taking every soldier who risked their life and follows the chain of command and making them legally liable. I don't think that's fair, and I don't think that is productive.
All right. Well, man, I appreciate you calling in tonight. I want to get you back on here again. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed talking with you this evening.
You too, brother.
On a light note, who you got in the Super Bowl, man?
You know, football season ends for me when the Eagles are out, which is usually the second round. This year was the first round.
Yeah.
I'm going to go, because I don't like to root for NFC teams. I'm going to go with the Colts, man. I love Peyton Manning. I haven't seen a better quarterback since Joe Montana, man.
Can't bet against Manning.
You can't bet against, unless it's Eli.
There you go.
Who you got?
I'm going with Manning too, man. I can't see anybody beating them. They're looking real crisp out.
They look real crisp. I wanted to see Brett Favre in there, man, playing them. But
that'd have been the dream game right there, man.
The NFL.
Two best quarterbacks of our generations right there.
You think so? Would you
two
think?
Of them. We got two of them in there too, but
I was gonna say
Manning, hard, man. How can you deny that? Who else would you throw in there?
But Brady would be my choice. I mean, Brady won a few Super Bowls. Favre, I love Favre, but I mean, you know, even Roethlisberger's one too.
I hated on Brett Favre a little bit up until this year. He showed he's the man.
Oh, he can play. The boy is no joke. He's one of my favorites, man. I would take him over Donovan McNabb right now.
There you go, man. So you can't be hating on your boy from Philly like that.
And he ain't going to be from Philly much longer, man. I'm praying they send him to Minnesota next year.
Send him to Detroit, man. We'll take him. We need a real quarterback here.
Man, y'all need a real football team.
There you go. There you go, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. I hope we can get you out to Detroit soon, too.
Whenever you need me. Oh, man, I wish I was in Detroit twice last week, but I'll be back.
I tried to find out you was up at U of M Dearborn, man. I was going to try to catch up with you, man, so we can hang out. But
I'll be around again, man. I'll be around again in a few months, man. I'll let you know, man, and best of luck to you. God bless your family, man. I look forward to talking to you soon.
All right, man. I'm going to be out at the CPAC conference in D.C. next month, so I'm going to try to get in touch with you while I'm out there.
I'll probably shoot down there anyway, hang out with some of my conservative brothers.
Sounds good, man.
All right, family.
Thanks a lot, man. Have a good evening.
Peace.
Yep. All right. Well, that was my interview with Mark. Appreciate you for calling in, brother. And anybody that's listening in this evening, what did you think of the interview? I think that was a good debate there, all the different issues. It was interesting to hear someone who's actually, who voted for Obama, to hear some of the things that people are critical of. And I think that's a big issue that a lot of times we haven't been speaking on things that we think he could do better, and it's only been a real love fest. So give me a call. Let me know how you thought the interview went. 347-996-3175. I tried to go on Ustream tonight and do a live broadcast, but I wasn't able to do it this evening. So give me a call, 347-996-3175. I want to hear from you. Phone lines were buzzing there for a while. I couldn't take calls while I was giving that interview. Give me a call, 347-996-3175. There. That was a great interview there. I want to thank everyone that's listening this evening. I appreciate all the support I've had so far on this show. If you're calling in right now, I'm trying to get everything set back up here. The calling number is 347-996-3175. 347-996-3175. Be patient with me if you're calling in right now. I'm trying to get everything set back up here. Glad we had a good interview there. Let's see. Only got about 10 minutes left on the show this evening, so I'm going to try to take a couple calls. I'm going to also go on Twitter to see what kind of comments I was getting here while we were doing the interview. If you have any calls you want to call in, 347-996-3175. I'm back up and running with my switchboard here. Give me a call. What did you think about the interview? Who was right, who was wrong between me and Mark there? Like I said, we can agree on some things, we disagree on others. I think we both want to make America a better place. It's just we got to kind of figure out the path that we both want to, the right path that we want to get on there. Again, Mark, thanks for calling in, man. I appreciate it. Give me a call, 347-996-3175. Let me know what you think about the interview, and if you have any questions, give me a call. So we had a couple calls while Mark was on there. If you're interested in give me a call now, 347-996-3175. Yep, in 3 weeks, I will be heading out to the CPAC conference, February 18th through the 20th. I hope I can get you some good quality interviews while I'm down there, get some answers from some leaders down there. I know Glenn Beck is supposed to be one of the lead speakers at that event, but it's the Who's Who event for the Conservative Party. So I hope that we can get some real good information for you while I'm down there. Give me a call, 347-996-3175. We only got about 10 minutes left. Tonight we have Marc Lamont Hill on the show. We talked about all the different issues going on in American healthcare debate, grading Obama. He gave him a C plus, C minus. I'm giving him a D plus. Maybe with the curve, he's the teacher. I go C minus, but he's got a lot of work to do, and I'm sure with Brown and now knowing he doesn't have a majority, he's gonna have a lot more work to do. Give me a call, people, if you're listening in. I got 8 minutes left on the show. I'd like to hear from somebody this evening. 347-996-3175. See what I got here on Twitter. See if anybody. See what that's why everything's locking down. 8 minutes left. I want to hear from you. I guess the biggest issue that we were talking about in the beginning was the almost a double standard of disrespect for conservative women. I had some people, we twittered about that, and how come it's never gone, it's never criticized the same way, and how come the women's rights groups don't get involved in these kind of issues. And I think it's almost disgusting, the fact that it's okay to talk bad about Sarah Palin or disrespect Michelle Bachmann or Condoleezza Rice, Michelle Malkin. But if anyone did that to Pelosi or anyone like that, it would be a big problem. And it ought to be fair all the way around. Like Mark said, if you're going to criticize women or minorities, it should be equal to blame, and spread that responsibility around, and not just make it a situation when one whose political party you like or agree with, when their leader gets criticized. It should be equal to everyone around. We got 7 minutes left on the show. The other issues that we talked about tonight, in case you didn't hear the whole show, we talked about the healthcare debate and what we could, and what he thinks we could do. His obvious dream, pie in the sky healthcare bill would include the public option, which Obama immediately threw out when he realized that wasn't going to be part of the negotiations, and at this point, it's just become an issue of a bill. So, if you have any questions or any comments, please give me a call this evening. We're heading out in about 5 minutes. If anyone's listening up in Carroll, Michigan, appreciate again the hospitality up in Carroll. Mark, if you're listening up there, I really appreciate it. I had a great time. I got a call here, so I'm going to take this call here. Caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, is it me, or can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, man.
How you doing?
I'm doing good, and yourself?
All right, who am I speaking with?
And my name is Bobby, and I'm calling from just outside of Baltimore, near D.C., so
all right,
that area.
How you doing this evening, Bobby?
Pretty good, man. I have to be honest with you. I didn't get to catch most of your interview with Lamont. Except for when you guys start talking about football a little bit, that's when I first tuned in.
That was the most fun part. We had a good debate though. You can also listen to it after the show is over in about 10 minutes. You can go back onto my website and listen to the whole broadcast, and also you can download it to your MP3 to your iPod too. So
yeah, that's the beauty of the replay on the BTR. That's a good thing, and I'll definitely go back and listen to it. I mean, personally, I'm not a liberal, or I tend to lean more conservative, so I'm probably going to take your side of the argument or the debate.
Nothing wrong with that, Bobby.
Right. But I do have actually I've seen your guest tonight on different interviews like on Fox and stuff, and I do have a lot of respect for him, even though I probably won't agree with most of his positions.
I do too. I have a lot of respect for Mark, and that's why I was so happy to have him on the show this evening. And I think that's, again, it kind of shows where America, even though if you have opposing issues, you should be able to intelligently debate it without getting to a yelling and arguing kind of thing, and actually two people that, like I said, fundamentally probably disagree on some things. You can still see that we have some similarities and think like-minded on certain things. It's just that we have maybe a different path on how we want to get there.
Yeah, I'm probably not, quite honestly. Personally speaking.
Let it go.
Yeah, I will, definitely. Believe me, I will. I'm probably a little more abrasive in my style than that. I'm not as gracious, but, I think it's like, I don't know, I guess you get what you give, and, a guy like your guest, he's always giving respect, whereas I found lots of times, you're talking about hypocrisy and stuff about the way the women are treated, and I find that, like, well, particularly the 8 years of Bush, that there was a whole heck of a lot of disrespect coming from the left, and it sometimes it kind of like brought out a little bit more of an abrasive response.
Yeah, the thing is that there was no positive coverage of George Bush almost probably maybe a year after 9/11. You never got what I would call any honest. It was personal. Everything was more directed at how they thought he was not competent for the job, and made him out to be something he wasn't. And again, it's just they don't cover Obama that way. He's given a larger margin of error to do his job, and I think that's fair that he has that. But I think that it should be like that for other leaders and not just him.
Yeah.
You're going to give someone the margin of error again. If you're going to give them the margin of error, which we're all human, we make mistakes and we don't do everything we're supposed to do right then and there. I just don't see how, even with the healthcare debate, how it's been under closed doors. I don't see how the media has let that go by when, again, they're supposed to be reporting this to all of us, everybody. And,
yeah, they're not doing their jobs. I mean, well, maybe they are doing their jobs. As a matter of fact, if to me, I mean,
not a good job of it. How about that?
Right. Well, I think maybe they are doing their jobs in their minds. Their minds is they are agenda driven, and so maybe they are doing a good job. I mean, when you got a guy like it was Chris Matthews saying that it's my job to make sure that this president succeeds.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty amazing. And they call that news.
Yeah, I mean, that's just unconscionable to me. Where's the ethics? Where's the standards of professionalism? It's gone by the wayside in our media, unfortunately, and it's
That's why I'm doing my show, man. I'm not constrained by anybody's advertising budgets, anybody's media, anybody else's agenda. I can just speak my mind, and that's why I encourage other people to do too, is to give a call and to speak your mind, and this way our voices are, this is recorded. It can be put into the ears of some people that need to hear it. So that's why I definitely encourage people to call in and give their opinions in the way they feel the country is going.
Sure.
Have you ever heard my show before, Bobby?
No, actually I haven't. I've been I surf through Blog Talk Radio like at least probably 2 or 3 times a week or something. Okay. I listen to the Black Conservative Show. He's a good guy, and
okay.
So
I'll tell you what. I hope we do this every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern. I hope you check back in with me. I'm about to get off the air now. I got about a minute left here, so.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, man.
There's a friend on Blog Talk, so we can, and if you're on Twitter, follow me on there too, okay?
Sure, man.
Google Wayne Bradley. See what you find.
Okay, we'll do that.
All right, man. Thanks a lot for calling in. God bless you.
Semper Fidelis.
All right. I think I got one last call here. I'm going to take it. I know who this is. Hello. You're on the air.
This is CK from Detroit. Really enjoyed your show. And this was really interesting hearing someone who supports Obama, who voted for him, but who's able to look at everything with from both sides objectively. Great show.
Well, thank you very much, Mom, for calling in real quick. I'm about to get off the air here. I've got 10 seconds. I appreciate you listening in. I'll give you a call as soon as I get off the air. Love you.
Okay, take care.
All right, thanks, Mama.
Okay, babe. Love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for everybody for listening to Conservatives Cool Talk Radio. See you next week. God bless you.